two, three.
Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Whenever you're listening to this, you're back with Front of the Line here with Jack Kilby. This morning, it's the morning here now that I'm about to talk to him. I'm so lucky to have Mr. Braxton Cook here to talk with me today. It's actually our first conversation. We were sort of joking about that,
Yeah.
Everybody else I've been able to talk to, is someone that I know really well. But, Braxton and I have a lot of mutual friends. He's someone that whose career I certainly admire a great amount. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more about, all the stuff that you've got going, man. So again, Braxton, welcome. And thanks so much for talking to me today.
But of course, thanks for having me, man.
You have so much great stuff going. It's hard to know where to start. I mean, I do love, I guess I'll start with your new record,
Bro,
man. I love your new record.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. It was, no doubt. That's the name of it. It was, I guess all my projects are kind of special to me, but this one was particularly kind of difficult to get out and release, like how I wanted it. And it's just like, I was so happy when I finally got the project out in November. It was like crunch time because there was so much happening at that moment. I think I was like on tour with Tom Misch and then about to leave to Europe on November 2nd, the day of my album drop, to Europe. And then after that, joining another tour. So it was just like a very hectic time. And when you're releasing things independently, you're handling, artwork and all this stuff. And you're trying to make sure everything is released on time. But it was such a blessing when it was just like out in the world. It was like, it felt great.
And how did this one differ from, say, if I'm not mistaken, you have 2 albums prior to this, at least that are your own?
Yeah. So I have this old EP I did in 2013 called Sketch, and then I did this project, Braxton Cook meets Butcher Brown. I don't even think Sketch is on streaming sites, so a lot of people don't even know about it. And then the Braxton Cook meets Butcher Brown was a project I did in 2015 with my bros down in Virginia.
Oh yeah.
And as you know, those are the homies from DMV. And then after that, then somewhere in between was kind of the first, I would call real debut project where I had a little bit of a label board, I guess, with Fresh Select, where they definitely helped me with distribution and getting a wider base. And then No Doubt was the follow-up to that. So I don't know whether to call it, everybody's like, is it an album, is it an EP, is it a what? I don't know. It's
sure.
It's something. It's a project. It's a statement of some,
right.
of some sort,
And they're definitely all statements, man. I mean, they sound, all those are great. I love the one with Butcher Brown, but, that's just because, I love my VA homies. I'm very used to that sound, man. But, but I'm curious, how has the process evolved, from your first one to say, the one now? Did certain things get easier? Is it just you're dealing with the same types of things, just sort of, on a different level, because I'm only one deep, and it's definitely been one of the most challenging things I've ever done. But I'm just curious, what sort of parts for you seem to sort of, I guess it's sort of the transition from an NCAA player moving to the NFL or the NBA, right? Things are moving so fast in that first year, and then they say the more you play, it's kind of the game slows down a little bit. So has the game slowed down at all for you?
I don't know about that, man. I'm always kind of constantly practicing and creating and writing. And I don't know, I learned from touring with Christian that you just kind of had to document, He's an artist that just started his career very young, younger than me, on tour at 15 and then putting out records at 20, 21. So I don't know, it just kind of took from that. And it was I won't try to think of perfecting anything, but more so just documenting a process of growth and stuff and kind of thinking of it that way. So it took a lot of pressure off me and off my shoulders, when it was all right, I'm going to go ahead and do the best and document myself at 23 and document myself at 25 and what I'm thinking and my music and songwriting too comes from a very I don't really create a persona, you know what I mean? Like some artists do, like a Gambino or something like that. I write as myself, so I very much just tell how I'm feeling at the moment. Somewhere in between was about where I was in 2016, a year after graduating and trying to figure out what I want to do and what I want to focus on and whether I want to, just be a sideman or what. And it was just kind of stepping into somewhat of the unknown of being full-time, completely musician out here in New York. And then No Doubt it started, as those things started to solidify and become more and more real, as far as like just knowing what my direction and things becoming more clear, No Doubt was very much about that becoming more concrete, and that feeling of doubt and fear just kind of starting to dissipate, and not only music, just in life. I'm getting married. I got engaged last year. So a lot of things, things are just becoming more clear and concrete. I'm making more stronger decisions, I guess, with what I want to do musically, sonically, and in life, in the future. So it's for me, it's very much a snapshot or document, obviously presented in the best way possible, but of where I am in that time in my life. That's how I write, that's how I create.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then you alluded to, something that I'd love to ask you about, which is playing with Christian Scott. I mean, because my first instrument was trumpet, and so I love the trumpet. I think one day, when I really get my stuff back, I'm going to be a better trumpet player than a drummer. But I just love the way Christian plays, man, and I love that band, and so talk to me about what it's like, in that you've come up in very much, or at least, your career was able to sort of start in very much the classic way of, the way that sort of Black American music, jazz, sort of began, which is like, the younger musicians sort of getting a gig with a more veteran person and learning the ropes really that way. I mean, that had to be really amazing.
That's exactly it, bro. Like, it was kind of it's just a dream come true, really, like a blessing. Like, my first year in New York, I meet Christian at a Donald Harrison show. I think I'm a freshman in 2011 or something like that. No, it was 2012, early 2012 now. So second semester, I'm in New York in springtime, and I go see a show in March at Symphony Space, and it's Donald Harrison featuring Christian. And turns out it's like around my birthday and around Christian's birthday. So we're always kind of hanging out backstage, and I had a bunch of friends that I did Grammy band with that knew him. And they were like, bro, you got to meet Braxton, blah, blah, blah. I didn't say a word. And they're just like talking me up. And I don't know, me and Christian started talking, and we just kind of hit it off. I was super chill, low key. I wasn't like, hey, man, put me in nothing. You know what I mean? To keep it back, I didn't fully even know all of his music. I think I knew maybe one song or two of Christian's at the time, which probably accounted for the fact that I was, more chill. And I don't know, we just kind of got to talking, and I was helping out clearing stuff off the stage after the show. I was helping Joe Dyson and some other friends that were playing that night. And I don't know, we exchanged information, and he gave me a call, and he hit me up for like a TV show later on that year. And after that, and then he was like, yo, you want to come sit in on the Blue Note? Jameyer, Chris Funn, Lawrence Fields, and Matt Stevens come through, learn this music. And it was a double record. So I was like, all right, cool. You got the sheet music? He was like, nah, we don't do that. And I was like, dang. So I remember just like, just transcribing like the whole double record. I didn't know what I was about to play on because there's no saxophone on it at all, really, for a couple guest appearances. And then from there, I did the show, and he was like, bro, here's some dates. And then that's where it started, like fall of 2012. And then right around there, that's when he was like, I think Jameyer and Nat, when everyone was thinking about doing their own thing. And he's like, yo, who should we get on the drums? And I'm like, yo, Corey's ridiculous. That's my bro. And then Corey started playing. And from then on, we all just kind of grew up together. To answer your question, like, once I finally got on the road with Christian, I learned so much about the business from this dude, and still do, because when we get in the car, like we still talk about music a bit, but we talk a lot about like booking, promoting, how to market, rollouts, releases, how to just, survive as a musician and think of yourself as an entrepreneur, how he's created these instruments, how to think about, your look, had all these things, that he won't necessarily like tell out like you should do this, but you just learn from like the way he's talking about it and the way he thinks about things. And I'm like, oh man. So I'm here, I'm like 21, like, just kind of absorbing all this stuff for years, and asking them questions. And I'm just like trying to learn the game. So in that sense, I learned so much in the band about, this industry and about how to do this, from watching him, from learning, and from asking him, and then of course musically, seeing what Christian does for, night in and night out, it's amazing, he's an incredible performer, bro. Consistently, like,
oh, for sure.
I learned a lot. Like, bro, like, who do you play? You play with some heavy dudes too. Like, it's got to be similar.
I mean, yeah, like we're lucky around here, that Chris Funn lives around here, so I could go play with him, sit in every night, on Tuesdays at JoJo's, and that's like the reason why I go out, is to be able to check out like. That band in particular, it's like, yeah, when you can go see Quincy Phillips, who's in, was in Roy Hargrove's band, like, and Chris Funn,
yeah, well,
like, all this kind of.
How long were you playing in D.C.?
I didn't even really start I went out a bit in DC when I was in high school. You know, to be honest, my folks weren't like super jazzed about me like going into the city to like, you know, hang out. They were still kind of like, oh, I don't know. And I'm just, it was the kind of classic like, Mom, I want to go hang out at like a dark bar and like play until the wee hours of the morning. But, you know, I remember meeting certain folks in high school, you know, and that was maybe, and, you know, I met CV. That was a huge thing, was meeting CV, you know, through my high school director, performing down at ECU with my high school, you know, and the Yellow Jackets came to my high school, which is cool. And so I've been really lucky in just being able to meet a lot of folks, you know, like luckily through the education component, which is cool. But, you know, like some of the greatest lessons that I've ever learned, you know, were like sitting in with John Durst's band on Thursday night at Miller's, you know, and it's very much the same types of lessons, you know, that you learn in playing on stage with anybody, right? Like all of a sudden I'm 20 and there's this guy, you know, I'm sitting in 20 years old, still definitely very green, you know, still definitely not sounding that great. And there's that moment when like he just kind of looks at you like he wants to play duo because he loves going trumpet drums duo. Yeah, you know, and in that moment, it's like, all right, so what am I going to play that's going to make this 65-year-old giant of, like, this music who's played, you know, with all sorts of folks and, you know, like,
play with
what's going to make him really play, you know, play the thing, so.
John Durst ran the All-State Jazz Band the year I did it in, like, maybe 2008 or 9 or something.
Oh, no way.
I'm dead serious. I was like, who is this cat? He's ridiculous. Yeah, man. He's incredible.
Oh, cool. Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, so he's such a deep guy and
super deep,
great musician. But yeah, I mean, when you listen to someone like, you know, like John or Chris Funn, you know, even at the saddest session, the thing I love about Chris Funn and that I learned from like those veterans is like he is in there every note, like no matter who he's playing with, like he is just absolutely, you know, it doesn't matter. You know, he's going to set it off. And that to me was just really like a check for myself too, especially because, you know, as a drummer, sometimes you're like, I don't want to play with this vocalist, man. Like I've played, you know, Black Coffee a zillion times, you know. And it's like, you know, bro. It really kind of makes me be like, hey, man, I mean, like, play the shit out of Black Coffee then, you know, for the 1001th time.
That's what Chris be doing, man. It's funny you say that because, like, I feel like that, honestly, playing in D.C., I was, like, maybe 17, 18 at the time, and Elijah Ballbed would always get me to, like, bro, come to D.C., and Mike Brandon, and I would end up just staying on their couch, and, like, we would just go down to Cafe Nima or JoJo's or wherever, somewhere on New Street, and just play, bro. And it was always, like, Quincy. I remember Tim Green coming through every once in a while, Alan, and Chris, and the Jolly Twins at the time. And I was just like, yo, this is ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
Eric Wheeler was still living there back then.
It got me ready for New York, bro.
Oh, I believe
it really did. Because and
you're definitely not the only one to leave.
They're world class, you know. At the time, it was just like, yo, they're dope. Who are these guys? And then I'm like, you know, I didn't fully realize like that Chris is torn with Keith Garrett and Christian Scott and Quincy. You know, I guess I didn't fully put that together at 17. I'm just like,
I was the same way. You know, my director was hip, and so he knew. He actually called me. Now that you mention it, he called me to play one gig with him at Nima's. I think I was 17, and Chris Funn was on the gig. And man, I tell you, I love the way that Chris vibes drummers too, because he's so nice about it. And it's only in the way that he plays, because he'll just play stuff in the line. Like I've listened to him enough now where I'm like, you know, he's just putting more skips in there. He's like trying to be real nice about it, you know. He's trying to drag him on.
That's a fact.
I was so far behind. It was great, man. Oh man. Luckily, it's a little easier to go walking now. But yeah, man. I mean, that's what you get when you play with these, you know, folks who've been doing it for as long as we've been alive, man, and who are just. They're so deep, and it's beyond the music. They're deep human beings, you know. It's
band you end up learning from. But Chris is always like teaching me about one, like some of those dudes like computer programs. They talk about coding. They talk about like stocks, day trading, all this stuff. Man, just be like absorbers, you know, because they're just on it. Like you said, like on the bandstand and off, just like on it. Super smart. Some of the most intelligent people I know.
Yeah, he just did our website, which is cool. It's like, oh, he does websites too. Who'd have thought?
Right. Yeah, you went to Howard for computer programming.
I feel so lucky to have the network of musicians and folks that I've met here in humble old Virginia. You know, they don't want to put us on the map, but they will. We're going to make them.
Oh.
You know, and I'm really lucky to, man, super thankful that Corey put us in touch, you know, and that, but just that, I had that degree of separation from you, man. So it really meant a lot that you were willing and